So we'll go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Those of you who are here on time, welcome. I'm Emily, the Marketing Director here at GoWP, and I'd like to welcome you all here today for this webinar with the Google Analytics Master, Chris Edwards, co-founder of Data Driven Labs. I'll introduce him and hand it over to him in just a minute. First, just a few things to get out of the way. So really quickly, I just wanted to say a couple words about GoWP. As a part of the GoWP community, so all of you watching have been a part of our community or are now a part of our community, welcome. I assume most of you are agency professionals. If you want, you can let me know in the chat if I'm on target with that or not. And if you're not agency professionals, let me know what it is that you do with WordPress or why you're here today with Google Analytics. I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a WordPress agency. So at GoWP, we have a team of happiness engineers who help agencies succeed and grow by providing exceptional maintenance and support for their clients. What we do is we partner with agencies by taking the high-touch, low-value work that disrupts your day off your plate. So that's things like plugin updates, secure backups, security scans, malware cleanup, and then, of course, all those endless content edits and updates that your clients are always requesting of you. And we're white label, so that's important. So we do all of this under your branding. We work as an extension of your team. And that way, you're able to focus on the low-touch, high-value work that helps your agency grow and become more scalable while our team is taking care of that high-touch, low-value stuff that eats into your day. If you have any questions about partnering with GoWP, and how we can help your agency, you can feel free to email me at emily@gowp.com. And I also wanted to tell you about our Facebook group. It's called the GoWP Niche Agency Owners. This is a community of agency professionals who either already serve a niche market or would like to niche down. This webinar is streaming there live. It'll be available there afterward as well to watch the recording. So you can go check it out and request to join. You can find it at www.facebook.com/groups/niche agency owners or niche agency owners, however you want to say that. So let's get to why we're here today. Google Analytics is a powerful tool. There's so much you can do with it, maybe too much. It can be intimidating. And if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't have hours to devote to learning the ins and outs of it, maybe you're even tempted to kind of leave it alone altogether and get a handy dandy tool that kind of filters it all and creates your little dashboards and things like that. But that's why we're here today. So it's not so scary. Chris is going to show us why. And we're really happy to have him here. So without taking up any more time, Chris, over to you.
All right. Well, first, welcome, everybody. We're going to today dive kind of more into Google Analytics and talk about it and talk about how you can use it to not only see what's going on with your website and understand your business, but also to help your clients understand their business and their websites, and also even ways you can use this as part of an add-on to your services and whatnot as an agency. So we're going to kind of today, it's going to be a little bit above the beginner level. But if you're still a beginner, it's not gonna scare you. And then we will have. I was talking with Emily. We're gonna actually have some further webinars later on that we're gonna dive into other things a little more in depth as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Let me see if I can get my screen up here.
And just to let you all know, I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, throw them up in there. And because Chris has a lot of information to share with us today, we're going to save those questions till the end, just in case he might cover them somewhere else in the presentation. But make sure to get your questions in, and I'll get those to Chris.
All right, let's see here. It minimized everything on me, so I gotta go find it. Here we go. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started then. So real quick, as Emily said, I'm Chris Edwards. I am a data nerd, agency owner. We have an agency here out of Orlando called Data Driven Labs. We were CE Squared a long time ago, and we realized it sounded like a lawyer's firm, so we changed our name to focus more on what we like to do, which is really looking into data and understanding the analytics of things. I've been a website developer 19 years, WordPress 7, So Google Analytics, which is what we're going to be talking about, I've been using it for 14 years. I started it back when I had this little forum online, or not little, it was actually a very large forum, and we used analytics to really know what was going on with our site and really understand what was going on and how it was growing, and it really helped us to grow that property very quickly. I've also, because of that, became a digital marketer and doing SEO, and learned SEO because, as a solopreneur, I had to figure out how to do SEO, how to market the site, and do all that because we were trying to grow it. And using analytics helps you. It's a huge piece of doing SEO and digital marketing because you need to know what's going on. And then I've just, I've always been about data. Even when I first got my first car, I was tracking everything, gas mileage, everything. I wanted to know all the data with everything. And it seems a little weird to a lot of people, but I really enjoy tracking the numbers. So feel free to follow me on Twitter if you'd like. And I do post from time to time about analytics on there and other things related to WordPress. So you can find me there. So let's go ahead and just kind of dive in. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about installation. We're not going to dive really in depth into this. I'm just going to kind of talk about the overview. And this is actually more installation and setup. Because we have a lot of agency owners in here who may be managing clients, I kind of want to talk about how the accounts, properties, and views work with Google Analytics, because this is one of those really confusing parts. Inside of Google Analytics, you have these three levels. You have account, property, and view. And I want to kind of explain how you would use those, right? So the account, this is normally set to be the company. And so when we're trying to talk about that, the account is going to be usually the company. Now you can actually be put onto multiple accounts. I believe, where's my notes? Oh, my notes didn't come over for the slide. I believe it's you can be on 100 accounts now. You can be on 100 accounts, and then you may have to create a second analytics account for that. But you can be on you can have 100 properties inside your account. So going through this, normally this is set at the company level. Property, that's going to be your website, application, mobile device. Don't put clients as properties, put them as accounts. And then you have view, which is the different views, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. And I just kind of want to show that because it kind of comes off a little confusing. So if you just say this is you're working with a shoe store, the account would be the shoe store, and then they may have their shoe store website, their blog, maybe their mobile app, maybe they have a separate Shopify or a BigCommerce or one of those type of sites off-site. Those would be each of the properties going along that way. And then kind of giving you an idea of how that breaks down all the way down to the view level is then views are your different kind of views you have available. I always recommend, and Google recommends as well, I recommend having at least 2 views at most, or the fewest, and up to 3 views. So you have unfiltered view, master view, and test view. We're going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about filters. But when you apply filters, you're basically blocking out traffic from getting into that view. And what you want to do is you always want to have that one view that's sitting off to the side, the unfiltered view, that has no filters applied to it. Because what if you accidentally block something major? You thought you were just blocking your IP, and you accidentally blocked a massive IP range and blocked all of Central Florida from coming into your analytics. You're not going to be able to see that unless you have that unfiltered view that you never touch, that you can dive in and you can really see what's going on there. The master view, that's going to be the view that you're applying all your main filters to. And then your test view, this is often, I set these up like if you have a staging site or something like that, I always set that up to be my test view so I can test all my analytics stuff, or all my analytics setups that we have, to make sure they're working right and that they're not messing with our actual goals and conversion in our main view. So those are your different views. When we're going to talk about filters, we're going to come back and talk about views again. So just kind of take note of this here and understand those different pieces. So when you're installing, we have there's about 3 different ways. The simplest way is obviously using a plugin. My favorite that I like to use with my clients is Google Analytics Dashboard for WP by Exact Metrics. It's a very long name. If you just type in GADWP into the plugin search, you'll find that one. Another one's Monster Insights. Funny enough, they're both now owned by the same company. because they both were bought out. So, but Google Analytics dashboard actually looks a little nicer, I think, than Monster Insights, and works a little bit better and is not as heavy on your site. Monster Insights seems to be a little bit heavier on the site at times, but I like using that one. It's the best way if you need to really quickly, easily set up a Google Analytics onto a website for one of your clients. This is the best way. We use this for clients who just need a simple installation. They need Google Analytics. That's all they need. They're not going into anything crazy. They're not doing any crazy goal tracking. We just want to get them set up. We usually just use these methods because it's one of the quickest ways. The other way, which will be probably your lightest way, is just adding the code to the website itself. So this is one of those that can be easy or difficult depending how your client site is set up. Some sites have the theme has a place for you to drop stuff right into the head code. Others, you have to install a plugin to be able to put stuff into the head code, which at that point, why not just install the analytics plugin? And then other ones, you may have to go edit the child theme. Obviously, you don't want to edit the main theme unless it's a custom theme that you built. So this is the method that a lot of people use when they're trying to set it up without a plugin. But my new favorite that we use for most of our clients is Google Tag Manager. And Google Tag Manager is literally a whole nother webinar, and we're going to try and get one on the books to do a webinar on Google Tag Manager because it's something really, really cool. But basically, Google Tag Manager, if you haven't used it, you drop one piece of code on the website one time, and then you never have to log back into that website to do anything. That means you can track button clicks, you can track all kinds of different things people are doing, just setting it up inside of Google Tag Manager. So we use this on a lot of big enterprise level sites because normally they don't let us touch their code. And so I can just send them over this piece of JavaScript, say, put this on your website. And then from this point forward, I'll never ask to speak to your code team again, hopefully. And we'll be good to go. And I can now manage your website through Google Tag Manager. And what we do is with Google Tag Manager is you basically create these tags. And tags are basically like your Google Analytics, your Facebook pixels, Hotjar pixels, any of those different tracking things or anything else you want to put on there. And they fire whenever you have a trigger go off. So a trigger could be if they click this button, if they visit this page, if they're on this page for more than 30 seconds, you can fire all these different tags, and the tags can be different things like events and whatnot. So Google Tag Manager makes it really easy to set this up. And like I said, we're going to kind of dive in a little bit more into this into a future webinar, but I do want to mention it. We have videos on our Data Driven Labs YouTube channel. Just search for Data Driven Labs on YouTube and you'll find us. And we cover some of the Google Tag Manager on there. We have a few more videos we'll be posting about Google Tag Manager in the next 2 months, I believe. So, and then, like I said, we're going to set up a webinar to go in a little more in depth. But it's definitely, this is the way to do it if you're managing someone's analytics in depth and changing and adding goals and events. So we're going to run through really fast the different reports of Google Analytics. These are the standard reports. And then I'm going to tell you what really is the most important that you should be paying attention to. So real-time reports, this is kind of cool. This is where you get to watch the traffic actually flowing in real time. You can see what's going on. You can, you can see how many people are on your site right at this moment. This is kind of fun after you launch a marketing campaign, or you send out an email blast, or you make a social post that's gone viral. You can watch that traffic flow in. You can put it up on like a TV or something and watch it inside your office or inside your home. I have done that before. Is on my living room TV. Had my website after something went viral. I got basically Google included me in one of their newsletters, one of my articles on Google Data Studio, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And they posted it in their newsletter, and my website had like over 10,000 people on it at one time, and it was really exciting. Also, it was great. My server did not go down, which was a really good thing too. So it's kind of a fun thing to watch all that traffic kind of flow in, see where they're coming from. You can see what continent they're on and all that. It's kind of really cool to see. You can drill down to location and see what cities they're coming from. So it's kind of a really cool thing to watch in the real-time views. Audience reports. So audience reports, this is basically where we're going to basically know what our visitors know about our visitors. What are they using? What technology? Where are they coming from? Their demographics, if you have that set up. interests, those kind of things. So this is probably one of the largest sections inside of there. There's a lot of things to dive into. We're not going to go through all those. That would just take an hour in itself. But feel free to go dive into that section and just kind of look at all the different things that are in there. Some really cool stuff. We'll talk in a minute what ones you really should pay a lot of attention to. Acquisition reports, this is where they're coming from. So we want to know what channels are working. Is your organic channel working? Is your social channel? How are you getting those visitors to your website? Are they coming direct? So this is where we find all of that information, and we're able to dive in. If you're running Google AdWords campaign and you've linked it to your Google Analytics account, you can actually see your Google AdWords or Google Ads now performance inside of here as well. So it's really a great way to know what's working, where are these people coming from, what efforts that you're doing on your marketing side are working and what are not working. Behavior reports. So this is to know what they're doing. What pages are they visiting on your site? You can also see your site speed. And this is also where we're going to find events, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But you can kind of really see what they're doing and what's going on your site. And then we have conversion reports. By far, this is really the main reason you should be using Google Analytics to track your conversions, because ultimately, if they're not converting, what's the point of having them on your website? So this section is where we have goals. If you set up e-commerce, you can also see all the e-commerce information going on inside of here. You can really just know what's working and understand what's going on with the conversions. So those were a lot of reports. When you dive in there, you can spend hours digging into each one of those. But I want to talk about what the most important ones are. So session, let's talk about session, users, and page views. So sessions, this is the entire duration of a visit to your website from start to finish, right? It expires after about 30 minutes or expires at midnight. So if somebody comes on your website and they go to 8 different pages, that entire time they're on your website is one session. Now a user, this is the actual visitor to your website. And it's defined by them having at least one session on your website during any duration. So if they come to your site 3 different times, they'll only count as one user. They'll count as 3 sessions, one user. And then page view is the actual visits to each page. So these won't count, or these count literally every time. So if they sit here on your page and they just hit refresh 10 times, that's going to be 10 page views. Let's say they come to your site after lunch and they come to your site at dinner. And each time they come to your site, they go to 3 different pages. What that would come out to is it would count as 2 sessions, 1 user, and then when I say 3, and 6 page views. So we would have that's how that would break out to kind of give you an idea of what the difference is between each of those. Depending who you're working with, sometimes people are interested in seeing how many users they had to their site, how many sessions, how many page views. What we normally tell people when they're looking for information on traffic, we normally talk about sessions is the most used one, because if someone comes back to your site, we normally, most people would tell you had X amount of sessions to your website this month. And that's usually the most important metric that a lot of people are looking for. Now, pages per session, session duration, average time on page, pages per session. This is how many times a user will this is how many pages the user will visit during one session. So this is kind of really great if you're a site that you're looking for a lot of engagement. This is a good way to see engagement. If they're reading multiple pages, like an e-commerce site, for example, that means they're shopping your website, which is what you want. That means they're actually getting through and looking. Now, if you have a landing page, you really don't want that to be high, because you're hoping that landing page converted them and they didn't have to dig around inside your site. So that's kind of one of those where I say it could be good or bad if that's a higher or lower number. Session duration. This is how long that session normally lasts. This is how long they end up staying on your website for the whole time. Average time on page, how long they stay on each page. So if you have like a news site or a blog site, you want the average time on page to be a little bit higher, because that'll tell you, are they reading the article or are they just clicking and going, there's nothing here, and leaving. So these are really all about engagement. And so, looking at these numbers will help you understand the engagement with your content on your website. Now, bounce rate and exit. Bounce rate, Google considers a bounce when someone only hits analytics, hits the analytics server once. So for example, when they land on a page, they do nothing else. They don't click on anything else. They don't fire off any events. They don't go to another page. That's what's considered a bounce. So one hit. And the percent of exit, this is what percent of users exit on that particular page. So they ended their session on your website on this page. Now, I want to talk about bounce rate because this is the biggest question I get on all of these. A bounce rate of 40 to 55% is good to great. 55 to 70 is not bad. 70 to 80 is not great, and above 80 is bad. Now, it depends where you're at. I've seen things on certain social sites where Pinterest is famous for this, for having above an 80% bounce rate. There's a couple other, depending where you're at, the bounce rate, you can look up and see what the average bounce rate is for those particular types. But like if you're an organic site, you really don't want to be over that 70% because that means what people are finding in the search engine and coming to your site for is not what they were looking for. Now, I do want to say this because I get this all the time. Someone brags and says, hey, I have like a 0 to 5% or maybe like a 7% bounce rate, so my site must be great. No, unfortunately, that actually is the biggest sign that something's broken. And what that normally is if you install the Google Analytics code on your website twice, which happens very easily when you start playing with those plugins. I've seen people install a plugin, forget to turn it off, or their theme that they're using came with a Google Analytics spot to stick Google Analytics in, and they don't know, and they installed that plugin. If your code is firing twice, you will normally see under 10% on the bounce rate, because remember what we said a bounce rate is. A bounce rate is if Google Analytics only fires once on that page. If you have analytics twice on that page, you've now technically hit Google Analytics twice and registered 2 page views. And what's going to happen is Google Analytics is going to say, oh, they didn't bounce. And so you'll never have a bounce rate. So that's when we do our audits, I'm not joking, we find this in probably about 20% of our audits that we do, where they've got Google Analytics installed twice. And it's the quickest thing to find, because if you do have under 10% bounce rate naturally, I want to talk to you, and you probably can go on a tour speaking all over the country about how you created such a low bounce rate, because that's just unheard of to have that kind of bounce rate without there being an error. So I always tell people, after we're done with these webinars, go check. And if you have that, go check and see if you have analytics firing twice. Jump into the Facebook group. I'll be in there after this webinar. I'm always in there. Just tag me, and maybe I can take a look for you as well and see if I can see what's going on there. But usually, yes, you do have 2 of them firing. All right. Moving on from those different metrics, let's talk filters and advanced segments. So this sounds scary, but we're going to make it really simple and easy to understand, right? So a filter basically is applied at the profile view level. And so we were talking earlier about those different levels from account, property, and view. And we talked about master view, unfiltered view. When you apply a filter, it goes onto that view, and it basically stops the data from ever coming into that profile. And so that's basically a firewall. It's stopping anything from coming in. So if you filter out an IP and say, I want to block this IP from being tracked, it will never enter there. Now, an advanced segments work a little differently, and we're going to show you that in a second. But they allow us to isolate similar visitors into groups, and we can then look at that. And I'll kind of show you what that is, but it does not actually make permanent changes to your data. It just is a view. So that's the key to remember. Filter is permanent changes. Advanced segment is just viewing. So let's go ahead and run through this real quick. How to create a filter. When we're inside there, and I'm sorry, I really got to update the screenshot. They moved those tabs across the top to be along the left side of analytics. They are still the same tabs, but just realize those will be on the left side. So you go to admin, and then under the view section, you hit filters, and then you go ahead and click add filter. And then you're going to go ahead and set up your filter. So this one here, we're blocking an internal IP address. So we don't want to track ourselves when we're going to our website. I did this recently on a blog I run. I was hitting the site a lot because I was doing a lot of optimization, and I kept triggering tons of page views, and it was throwing my numbers off. So, obviously I set up to filter myself out so that my traffic wouldn't show up. You can also get custom, so you can really dive into all kinds of things. So that was just the pre-built ones, but you can go into all these other things. So we can actually filter by campaign source or any of those things. We can create those based off of that and set up rules for that. So what kind of filters would you set up, right? One of the things we would do is excluding internal traffic. Your best converting user is always going to be you because you're testing things. So you want your internal team and your staff and anybody else that works with you, your clients, they're going to be doing things differently than anyone else, and they're going to skew your data because they're going to be clicking through not the normal way. They're going to be hitting, when you set that new form for that client, they're going to be sitting there testing it 20 times because they're going to think that it's going to break because you didn't do something right, because that's what they do. But you're going to want to run through each one of those and really test or exclude that traffic from your master view. Now, you can have that come in on your test view if you want. So you would actually, instead of saying exclude, you would say include. And then that would make your test view be just you. So you can see what you're doing and see if the things are firing correctly. Excluding development sites. Obviously, development sites are the same type of thing. You want that to not be tracked. Lowercase on campaign attributes. I don't care who your marketing team is. Marketers are famous for not following anything that you set up for them. So when you set up a UTM code, which we're not going to dive in this one, but take a look and look up UTM codes. But when you have a UTM code where you put in campaign medium, source, and all that for like emails and whatnot, if one's uppercase, one's lowercase, and one's, every other word's uppercase, they all count differently in Google Analytics. It is very case sensitive. So by making everything comes in and putting this on, you can actually force all of them to be lowercase, when they come in, they all will track. So it doesn't matter how they typed it, as long as they spelled it correctly, it will track at the same one and not different. So this is really important to set up. I always set this up, especially when you have multiple marketing team members that are going to be posting in different places, because they all will capitalize different things. Excluding all query parameters. Basically, you can pull off that query string so it all just shows up as just the initial page, because same thing, it will track each one of those as something different. Then other ones can be including or excluding specific campaigns, lowercase on the request URL, attach host name to it. So like if you're running analytics like kind of as a wrap up on multiple pages, you can actually put it where it adds the domain in front of it, so you'll know which one it is. Including mobile only, exclude traffic, include or exclude traffic to a specific place like a blog or a shop. Those are the different types of things you can set up with that. Now, advanced segments. We're going to kind of run through what these are. So this is what's really cool. You can add these advanced segments into a view. So in this one, I actually created an advanced segment, and they work like filters, but they're not permanent. So I can say, I want to see everything that is organic. I want to see everything that's referral, and then all users. And then it will create this nice little colored graph here. And you'll see it shows all those different ones on this graph, so we can kind of see how each one of those is performing. This is one I use a lot, and I'm going to show you how to create these, right? Go up here. When you're in your site, you'll see all users normally up there in this little circle. Should be 100% of your sessions. And you'll see it up in that little circle, but you'll see that little gray circle over there that says add segment. When you click on that, it's going to bring up this screen, and you're going to hit new segment. You're going to put in your segment name. You're going to pick your conditions, and you're going to save it. So like, for example, if I pick conditions, I can say, if any of these contains this, I can say, if source equals Pinterest, then we can see all the traffic from Pinterest and what that traffic was doing with that one. You can also set up sequences. We're not going to dive in depth with those, but you can actually do it where if they do this, this, and this in multiple steps, then we want to do this. So like if they go and they add something to their cart, and then they go to the checkout page, we want to start tracking anyone who did those 2 items in that order. Basically, everything you use filters for, you can do here. I like to include mobile only. I like to show traffic from specific campaigns when we're running a lot of marketing campaigns. I also like to show traffic from, let me see what just people in Florida are doing versus what people in California are doing on my site. So sometimes I'll break it out that way, or by country. Or we can do the same thing with the blog or shop. The other thing is you can also find advanced segments gallery. It is at, if you just Google search Google Analytics advanced segment gallery, you'll find this. I can't remember. They changed the URL recently on this one, so I can't remember what the URL is. But you can find these. These are pre-built ones. You can actually download these if you want to see what some other people are creating as well. Okay, so let's talk about event tracking, which is, to me, was what Google Analytics is about: event tracking and goal tracking. So event tracking, these are going to be, the events are user interactions with content that we can track independently. So basically, we can track things like downloads. We can track when they do a mobile ad click, whatever they do on your site, a button click, all those different things we can track. And they come up like this. When they come in, this is on a UTM Chrome extension we created. We want to see how many people were copying the code, how many people are adding new filters in, and how many were saving it. And so we created these different actions so we can see how many people were doing these different actions on there. And those were our events. To set these up, this is where I say, if you're going to be going this level, going with Google Tag Manager is the better way to go, because you're going to have to set up the tracking JavaScript. And depending on what plugin you're going to use, there's 3 different versions of Google Analytics out there. You need to see what your plugin's using. This is for Universal Analytics that's on the screen. But there's the classic one that you shouldn't be using anymore if you are. And now there's the new tag script version they're using. All of them have to be done differently, but this is how you would set them up. You can do this as a JavaScript event inside HTML as like on click to do these things. But my recommendation is, if you're going to start tracking things like button clicks and different events, that's where you need to go ahead and move up to Google Tag Manager and start using Google Tag Manager. If you go to our YouTube channel, we actually have a video on there that says, it's called How to Track Button Clicks with Google Tag Manager. And if you go watch that, I actually show you how to set up a Google Tag Manager event based off of someone clicking. I think it's a call to action button that I show you how to do it on. And it's actually, it seems complex, but it's really easy to set up, and you'll be surprised. Once you use it, you'll love it. And like I said, we'll also set up a webinar down the road that we'll talk about that as well. So goal tracking. We're going to get back to events in just a second, but I kind of want to talk about what goal tracking is. So goal is going to be what fulfills our target objectives. And this is the one thing I always say to be careful of. You only get 20 of these. So you want to make sure that these are when they complete a certain activity on your website. This could be something like making a purchase, signing up for your email list, submitting contact information from a marketing form or a lead generation form. That would be what you would normally have as being considered a goal. And we have these different types of goals, right? We have a URL goal, URL destination goal, which basically tracks visits to a URL, visit durations, pages per visit goals, and then event goals. Now, this is where I was saying we're going to come back to events. You can actually have goals fire off of a certain events firing. And I'll explain why we want to do that here in just a second. So remember, there's only 20 of these that you're allowed, right? And so you've got to make sure that you're not tracking every single thing. So if you have like let's say you have a multi-step form, you have page 1, page 2, page 3, and on page 4 is when I actually submit it. You might want to track when I complete each page. So page 1 would be an event. Page 1 completion be an event. Page 2 completion be an event. Page 3 completion be an event. Page 4 completion would be an event that also fires a full form completion as a goal, because your goal is that they fill the whole thing out, and then that way you can still go back and track how many people only did each page, but your goal is that they completed the whole thing. So we do this like for leads, trial signups, account creations, newsletter signup, white paper downloads, ebook downloads. You can really, it depends what type of website you have, purchases, things like that. What type of website do you have, and what do you want to be that initial goal? What is the main thing you want them to do? So for example, on our agency site, all of our goals are set up when you submit a lead form to us for us, requesting for us to talk to you about doing work. That's our ultimate goal. Everything else that you do on our site, it's great. I'm glad it's helping you, whatever. But our ultimate goal of our site is to bring leads in for our business dev team to go after. So that's what goals are and how you set them up. This is the two ways. You got destination-based and event-based. So destination-based is going to be over on your left. And this is where if they hit a certain page, a URL destination, we can fire this off. So if they hit your thank you page, then you can say, fire this goal off. So if you have a thank you page. Now, this can be a great way if you have if you have them go off site and come back or whatnot, you can set this up based off of those. Now, the ones I use the most are the event-based goals. As we talked earlier, you can create events. So we were talking about creating an event for, let's say, a multi-step form. Each of those pages fired an event when they completed each page. We would say if the event matches, and you'll see the event category, action, label, and value down along the side. I'm not sure if my mouse shows up for you guys here, but this section here, when you go through those, you can select if they match these to go ahead and fire as a goal. So the event will still fire, but then a goal will be marked off that a goal was completed because that event was completed. So this is the way we usually set up our goals, is using events. We set all the events up in Google Tag Manager, and then we pick which event is going to be our actual goal that we're gonna set.
We do see your mouse, Chris, just to let you know.
Okay, perfect.
That's helpful. Yep.
All right, so goal value. You can assign a value for each goal. Please make sure this isn't your way of tracking revenue, because people can turn off analytics. They can misfire them. Make sure you have a different method, because your accountant will hate you if you try to use Google Analytics as your accounting method. But goal values are really useful for trying to find the return on investment for different campaigns. So if you're running a marketing campaign, you can see how valuable that marketing campaign was for you, or social sources or whatnot. So this can be like, let's go back to agency, since a lot of you in here have an agency. After a while of running data, you'll probably know how many leads you get, how many of those leads convert over into customers, and what the average value of that customer sale is. You can then do some math and break it out and say, for every lead I get, every lead is worth about $2 or $3 or whatever, $100, based off of your conversion rate offsite. And so you can set that and say, well, let's say my goal value is $100, right? If I get 5 goals completed, I can say that I made $500. Well, if those came from that Facebook post, then I can say that Facebook post probably made me $500. Again, it's not a hard science, but it's a great way to really track what that return on investment is. And the other cool thing is conversion rates. So conversion rates, these go through every single report inside of Google Analytics. And I'm going to try, if we have a little bit of time here, I'm going to jump in and kind of show you real quick. But the conversion rates, you can see it across any of the reports, no matter where you're at in Google Analytics. So this is great for being able to see, if you're looking at any of those acquisition reports, behavior reports, you can see those conversion rates and understand that data a little more in depth. Now, all this information inside analytics is great if you want to sit and dive into it, but if you want a really quick overview, you want to see a dashboard, and especially your clients. Clients, if I set them up with Google Analytics, they log in once and then they call me and they say, so how much does it cost for you just to analyze it and send me an email each week? Because I have no idea what I was even looking at. And so we use a thing called Google Data Studio. I pulled like 3 of these slides from a 60 page slide deck. So we're not going to obviously go through full-blown Google Data Studio, but I'm going to show you what it is, right? Google Data Studio, this is a dashboard I created. You'll see it's themed to my company. And it is pulling over all this information, and I was able to style it to look the way I want it to look. You can put your brand on it. You can put your client's brand, whatever you want to do, but you can make, I almost say like a beautiful custom dashboard, and it's drag and drop. Like it's, if you can use Google Docs, you could use Google Data Studio. It's that easy to use. And you can pull from multiple sources. And this is what I mean by multiple sources. You have the free ones from Google, so you can pull from all those places, pull in Google Ads, Google Sheets, Google Search Console, YouTube, CSV if you don't have, if your thing doesn't have a connector. And then all these other paid connectors, you can pay third-party companies create all these other connectors that you can actually connect to as well, and pull all of that in and create one dashboard. And just kind of give you an example, here's a bunch of different like dashboards that are created. So you'll see in the back, you got Google My Business there. You've got one that's mixing Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Bing ads, LinkedIn ads, Google ads all into one. Google AdSense is in the background. You can see all those different ones are inside of here. Here's one that's a YouTube one on the left. Over on the right, you've got, I think it's just Google Analytics over on the right. This one's a Google Ads one and a Google Search Console on the right. And you can see these are all different custom layouts that people have created. Even pulling CSV files, like this is pulling from our Google Sheets. This is Google Sheets data, and you can create this. If you want to create a graph of just other stuff, you can. You know, I was recently, I went on a weight loss journey, and I was trying to lose weight, and I actually exported my data out of my iPhone into a Google Sheets file, and then I created, again, I'm a data nerd, I created a graph, or I created a dashboard so I can actually visualize my weight loss inside of a Google dashboard. So you can do a lot of things with this. It's kind of really cool. And I do want to show, I got a quick second here. Let me show you really quick what one looks like, right? So you can see this is a sample one here. When you hover over, you can actually see these different things, see what's going on with them. You can actually change how they, or how they're sorted. You can add different pages. And then one of the cool things is, this is all dummy data loading from Google, by the way. You can come in here and you can change your date range. So we can say we want to do in the last year, which I probably shouldn't have done. It's going to take a second to load. You can pull that in. You can also select channels. So let's say, well, we only want to see what came in from organic search. We can change that. So you can add all these type of things in, and your customers will love this because you can make it super easy. Yeah, that's going to take a while to load. You can make it really easy for them to see all of this data inside of here. Oh, there it goes. And so you can see this is just from the organic channels. So a lot of really cool stuff you can do with Google dashboards. And this particular one that I'm showing you for attending today, I am going to give all of you, the next slide, a free dashboard. So those dashboards that are created right there, we have a different webinar we'll be doing where I actually walk you through how to create them. But if you want to just get in there right away and start playing around, you can go ahead and go to those two links there. And what you do is up in the top corner, you hit make a copy, connect up your Google data source. So this will be your Google Analytics account. And now you can change out the colors, change out the logos, and make it your own, make it for your clients. I'll tell you our secret. A lot of our clients, we use this as our base dashboard. We have one with e-commerce and one's just Google Analytics only. We use this as our base, and then we build on top of it whenever someone needs a dashboard from us, because it saves me a ton of work, because I've already spent a lot of time building those dashboards out, and I don't have to rebuild them. So feel free to grab those. If you go to those two links, they should work. One thing I learned, you have to type it exactly as it is with the capitalization. If you do it all lowercase, it doesn't work. Gotta love that.
I will be, I can share these links in the follow-up email for everybody, so you don't have to scribble them down right now. So
yeah,
just so you guys know.
Feel free to use those dashboards. They're great. You can use them for your clients. Your clients will love you if you use these. The cool thing is with Google Data Studio, You can share them just like you would a Google Doc. They use the same sharing system, so you can actually share them with your clients with a public link if they want, so they can quickly and easily access them from anywhere. You can even embed them they can be embedded through an iframe. So if you have a dashboard you've built for your clients, you can just pull this in as well and have it inside of that dashboard as well. So feel free to grab these and use them. And like I said, we will set up another one where we'll run through Google Data Studio more in depth and talk about it and everything you can do with it. It's a really cool tool. And that's going to be the end of this. And I'm sure there's a ton of questions.
Thank you, Chris. That was fantastic. Really informative. I loved it. I use Google Analytics in my position here with GoWP, so I was listening intently as well. And I really loved the bit on segments, because yeah, I think my problem, and this is my problem in life in general, when there's so many options, I have trouble focusing. So yeah, with Google Analytics, it's like, oh my God, I can do everything, and I can't figure out what it is I actually want to do. So I loved your segment ideas and suggestions there as well. We did have 2 questions that came in early on. If anyone has other ones, go ahead and put them up in the chat or in the question and answer feature. Or if you're watching on Facebook, you can put them in the comments there. So let's see. What are your thoughts on using Google Sitekit instead of Monster Insights, etc.? I guess Google Sitekit versus anything else.
So Google Sitekit is getting better. I'm not a big fan of Google Sitekit. Sitekit. I previewed it, I think 2 years ago in Nashville, WordCamp US, when they were just getting the project started. And it was missing a lot of features. It's gotten a lot better. And I think it might be great for somebody who's just getting started and doesn't know how to, because it does walk you through setting up all of these things. I think it even walks you through Google Search Console, I believe. So it walks you through getting all of that set up through their API, which is kind of nice. Monster Insights and Google Analytics for WordPress by Zach Mestrix, whatever it's called. That one also walks you through the process of setting up as well. Google Sitekit, it's getting better. I don't know if it's fully there yet. I have not looked at it probably in I think the last time I played with it was about 4 months ago. So I don't know if it's got how much better it's gotten. I've heard they fixed a lot of the issues. So that's kind of my opinion on it. They are getting a lot better with it. So if it's something that's going to help your clients get into Google Analytics, then definitely use Sitekit. But the other options I think are a little bit better, and they allow a little, to me, they're a little bit, like I said, I mostly use Google Tag Manager myself in the long run instead of using any of those type of plugins anyways.
Cool. Yeah, we also, we already got Chris committed to doing a couple more webinars for us regarding Google Tag Managers and Data Studios, like you mentioned, so stay tuned for those. And actually, we had 2 of the same questions. So the other question was, what is your opinion on the quality value of the new Google Sitekit plugin versus the ones you suggested? So asked and answered, I guess. The other question, do you have some real world examples of how to name event categories, labels, etc.?
Actually show one here. Yeah, it's gonna be, oh boy, my computer's stuck in a loop. There we go. All right. So if you actually look down at the example down below, this is one way that you can set up Google events. It really comes down to how you want to do it. I've done it differently, and I've never like after I do it, I never like it. But one way is, let's say that it's for a video, right? And you want to track when they press play. So if you'll see here, this one, the event category is videos. The event action is play, because that's them hitting the play button. And then the event label is fall campaign, or whatever the name of that video is, right? So this could be, your video on puppies. So it's, and that would be the actual label. And then of course, this one doesn't have an event value listed inside of it. So that way, what we would do then is each time we have, because we may have also stop, so we might have videos, and then we might have stop, and then we'll have fall campaign. And you can set up the different ones for even percentage watched, which you can do with Google Tag Manager, which we'll talk about in that webinar. But you can actually say when I hit 50% watched on it, so it can say videos. The action can be 50% watched, and then the label of that video. Does that kind of give a good idea there?
It does for me. If the asker's still watching, let us know if you have any follow-up questions for that. Now, not to make this a product review, this person says, but what about rank math in combining Google Analytics and SEO?
So rank math is my new favorite tool that I just started playing with. I'm not kidding. I downloaded it last week. I have not been a fan of the other one lately. And I've been playing with a couple different ones, and I downloaded rank math, and I've pretty much fallen in love, except for one issue that they say they fixed. And I got to go back to their support team because they just launched it in yesterday's update and it didn't work on my site. Is you can't select a primary category if you have multiple inside of Gutenberg. You can only with Classic Editor. And I kind of explained to them that Gutenberg is, a thing now, and they need to update it to work in both. And they said that it was out in the last update, and it was in the release notes, but it's still not working for me. But other than that, I've actually really liked rank math for that side. There's not a whole lot in rank math you can do with Google Analytics on that side, but on the SEO side, yes, I do like it. I worry they have a lot of money behind them and a lot of stuff going into a free tool. So I always worry at what point they're going to hit a point where they decide to monetize it. And so what does that mean for once everybody's on board? I always get kind of worried when there's no plans listed for what they're going to do on that side. But other than that, I love it as an SEO tool.
Cool. I think that's a healthy concern. So cool. Well, let's see. I think that is all the questions. Let me check Facebook. Let's see. Nope, we've got a question here. Some people say thank you for the templates. I also say thank you. I think that's great, and I appreciate it for our audience. Thanks for doing that for everyone. And let's see, how do I filter out visits that appear to be bots? Hundreds of one-time visits with 100% bounce rate and 0 time on site.
So you can do that with filters. It can be very complex to set those up. And I wrote an article a long time ago, but I haven't updated the article because Google has been doing a really good job finally of automatically filtering those out. Every once in a while you get some in there, but if you're getting a ton of them, see what you can find that they have in common with each other. Sometimes it could be user agent or something. See if you can find something they all have in common with each other, and then you can build a filter around it. It's really hard because these bots are getting really smart in how they do it. And so the downside is it can be very difficult to filter those. I'm trying to think. The article I wrote, I don't think would work anymore, just because they've changed. The bots have changed since they. I wrote that article about 4 years ago. But Google has started to filter them automatically. So if you're still having that issue, I would just try to see if there's something in common those bots have, and then build a filter around them to filter them out. And remember, always have your unfiltered view so that if you mess something up and you actually filter out real traffic, you can go check and see if you're filtering out, real traffic versus, not, the bots. But I would just try to see what they have in common. Look at things like host name, because a lot of these bots, what they do is they never actually visit your website. They just fire your code. And so the host name will either be blank or not set to your domain name. So you could try and say if the host name does not equal your URL or your host name of your site, your domain, you can say don't track that. So just check those different things. It's like I said, it's really hard for me to say exactly what to do because these things are very, they modify them on every hour whenever people figure out a way to block them.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, the asker said, she said it's one of her clients having this trouble. So yeah, I think those sound like valid suggestions for that. I love that you use I loved your Google Data Studios dashboard and that you use that for your clients. I think that's great. And I'm excited to learn more about Google Data Studios once we get that next webinar set up. So thanks for that. I think that is all the questions though. If anyone gets one in real quick. If not, like Chris said, he is in our GoWP Niche Agency Owners Facebook group where this recording will be. You can tag him in a comment or question in there. We'll try not to abuse you too much, Chris. So let's take it easy on him. Not everything all at once. But yeah, so if you watch this later on, have a question come up, let Chris know. I will be sending this recording out briefly over the next couple of days with the links that Chris shared and also to his YouTube channel. So if you want some further information on that. But yeah, I think that's it. Chris, thank you so much. That was a fantastic webinar, so informative and super helpful. So I thank you.
Awesome. It was great being here.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Again, this is in the GoWP Niche Agency Owners Facebook group. So come join us over there. All right. Chris, thanks. And I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.